What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this video, this adventure. Today is going to be, we're not going fishing, but I had one of my subscribers had asked me to tell you guys exactly, specifically what I take when I go steelhead fishing and exactly how I have it set up. So that's what I'm going to give you guys right now. So to start with, I brought with me today, I've got my bag. This is going to show you everything in the bag, everything I take. I'm going to take it all out and lay it out on the tailgate here. I kind of want to show you my GoPro real quick. So I'm going to show you that. So it's a little chest mount type of GoPro. The reason I like to show you, on the back part, this is going to be right in the middle of my back. I have this little green magnet, and that magnet goes to my net. It's set up so that the net can grab onto that magnet. So it's literally sitting right on my back just like this while I'm walking around, so I don't have to have my hands to hold the net. That's a pain in the butt trying to, and then the very last second you just grab that net and you can scoop up a fish with it. This is kind of more of a net for like a solo trip. Fraybill, I guess is the name of it. It actually has a little, right around this metal ring below it, there's another nylon ring here, and it's got a flotation device, so it's kind of designed to not sink real quickly. If we were to drop it, it would just kind of stay right there on the surface. So it's a nice net. It's big enough so far, and it is plastic, so it's about as safe as a fish can get. So the next thing I'm going to show you is the rods that I use. So this particular rod is, I don't know if you can zoom in on that. It's a G Loomis rod. It's a 9-foot, and it's a 8 to 12 pound rating on the rod, and it is a fast action rod. I really like it. This is the rod that I use, and I have a Corrado reel. I'm gonna flip it around here. It's kind of dirty, but this is a 201 E7. It's an older reel. I've had this, I don't know, maybe 10 years. And I have on it, I have braided line. This is the braided line, I think it's called Max Quattro. So it's a 4-carrier bearing, or 4-carrier style line. And I have it in 40-pound test. A lot of people say that it's important to have 50-pound or better for bobber fishing or anything like that. I kind of like the 40 because it's still got plenty of power and it'll still keep all of my gear. And then I run that down, that main line, all the way down to my bobber and my weights setup. So I want to show you exactly how I have this. So I've got a bobber stop on the top. It's actually right here, because that's about how deep I was fishing last time. So I got a bobber stop on the top, and then a little red bead here. You see that? And then I have a big old bright green corky. I do that because I see green a lot better than I see the orange or reds. So I like that. And also, this is a nice indicator for if you cast it and maybe the bottom, let's say for example, you're casting this and your bottom somehow, maybe this thing gets all messed up and hooked up into here like that. That corky's not going to set down correctly anymore on the top of the bobber. It'll be a nice indicator that it's not fishing correctly, and then you can quickly reel it in and realize that maybe your hook was like stuck onto the line like that. So it's a good indicator. So then I usually, for steelhead, almost everything I run is a 1/2 ounce bobber and a 1/2 ounce weight. So then I have one more bead. You can see that green, doesn't matter what color bead you use, but I have a green one. And then right there's a little plastic bobber stop right there. Now, bobber stop on the bottom is new to me this year. I used to not have that bobber stop, and whenever if I'd break off all of my gear, I'd have to kiss that whole thing goodbye, and I'd have to buy a new bobber. So somewhere along the way I watched a video, I can't even remember who showed me the first time I saw it, but seeing that bobber stop on the bottom, that saves all of this top gear. If I were to break off from here down, I wouldn't lose that bobber. So it's nice to have that bobber stop as a fail-safe. You could go with a lot smaller. I have this, it's this terminal tackle. It's a snap swivel. It's designed to swivel on the top, swivel on the bottom, and then below that swivel you have a little snap. These snap swivels, you can open them. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but you can open them up. So you can use different weights. This is a weight that I've kind of seen people use, and I've improved it a little bit, but all this is this is a spinner body, the metal part, and it goes through a hollow lead, and then I cut the lead off to be the right length for it to actually equal my 1/2 ounce, because I want it to equal the bobber. And then I smash it. You probably can see little smash spots. I smash it here, smash it there, and smash it there. And that just kind of clamps that weight down on the metal spinner body. And then just to make sure it doesn't slide off of that metal spinner body, I put a kink in it, just a little S shape, and that's enough for that metal to have some memory there. So this is actually the first one I've tried. I've never lost it, and I fished it basically for the last 2 months on my bobber and eggs. The middle part of a spinner is made out of this metal, the same metal rod material. Let me show you. So here's a spinner, and if you see on the top of the spinner, that's metal, and it's a metal going from here down to the hook. So that's just what the spinner bodies are made out of. That's kind of what holds all the little components of a spinner together, is that metal piece. I'll get right back to that. What I do, this particular rod is set up for my float fishing eggs. So all I have below here, if you see right below that, I tie a fisherman's knot, and I used to fish 8-pound test and maybe 10-pound test on the coastal rivers, but I've graduated up to using 12-pound as my primary line for my leaders. I think 12-pound is a good number. If I'm not being too tough and mean and pushy with the fish, I can coax them in with 12-pound tests, almost any fish that this would be a steelhead. And then, I don't know if you can see, I've got pretty long arms. I would say that's probably like 30 to 35 inch length from the leader to leader, ends of the leader. And then I just have on the end, I've got this hook, and it's an octopus style hook, and I've tied that hook on to my leader with what's called a bait loop knot. It's designed to where if you were to pretend my finger was a piece of salmon eggs, you put that little chunk of salmon eggs in there and then pull it down tight to where it just holds that salmon eggs right in that spot. So as you're drifting your salmon eggs down the river, it's just sitting there with a nice sharp hook right in that middle of that cluster of salmon eggs. And that's how I do it on that one. Next thing I'm going to talk about is my other fishing rods, what I use for that. The next rod that I take with me, I take 3 rods, but the second one is dedicated for spinning rods and drift fishing. Right now on this one I have a spinner on it. This is a number 5, yep, number 5 Blue Fox. For some reason I feel like the silver blades are good and the blue bodies are good. There's 3 different types of spinners. Most of the time when I'm fishing a spinner, I'm fishing these bell shaped bodies. You can also do torpedo bodies, and I think there's another one called a bullet body that's even heavier. But most of the actual water that I'm fishing isn't more than about 6 to 8 feet deep, so I can get away with one of these bell bodies pretty well. And out of all of the spinners I've tried, I feel like the Blue Fox is the best as far as spinning and kind of holding its spot really nicely in the current. I don't snag up a lot of these. Something new that I've done this year is I've gone to a single hook instead of a treble hook. And I believe this is a number 3 Siwash hook. Alright, so what you can do, if you buy these out of the package, it comes with a hook, and I don't like their hooks that they come with a single hook like this. And what I'll do is I'll take just some nippers, and I'll cut the old hook off with the 3 hooks. And I actually put on one of these little split rings, they call these. A little silver piece right here. I'll put that on the end of that spinner body, and then that way, I don't know why, but I think it actually helps have things be a little bit more tangle free with the spinner, to have that in between the hook and the spinner body. So I'm not an expert at spinner fishing, so don't really use what I'm telling you as like gospel, but again, I've got a nice, I think this is a 300 or 3000 series, nice, made by Shimano, nice reel. So I've fished the Okuma reels that are in the same size and category, and I've fished these Shimanos. This one, for some reason, both drags are good drags. Both of them fish and catch fish all the time. What I noticed about this, though, is when you do like a quarter turn here or a half turn, it's more of a micro adjustment. So if you want to be a little bit more precise in adjusting your drag exactly how you want it, I would go with the Shimano over the Okumas. I think it has to do with, like, if you unscrew this all the way, it has threads. And I think because of these threads are a little bit of a finer thread, well, how far do I got to turn it? That's how far you got to turn it to unscrew it, because it's real fine threads. If you have it loose like this, no problem, it pulls it out. So if I screw this all the way in to where it gets hard to turn, like that, you can't even I can't pull it out of there with my fingers, it'll cut. Now I can barely move it. Another half turn, still barely move it. Another half turn, now it's moving a little easier. And with the Okuma reels, from what I've seen, you go from tight to maybe one full turn and it's just like easy to pull out. But this one, it's such a micro adjustment. That's why I like it over the Okuma reels. Quick story about this rod. I didn't buy this, this was given to me. A woman had a husband that was really into fishing, and his name was Chris. And this is a G Loomis rod. I call it the Chris Loomis. He died, and she gave me all of his fishing stuff because she knew how much I love to go fishing. So I've tried to make it a point to take this rod with me when I go fishing on the rivers. In a little weird way, I kind of feel like maybe Chris is up there somewhere giving me some extra AUTOMAGIC. I don't know, but I think that's probably true. I've caught a lot of fish on this rod. It's not my favorite rod. This is actually, this rating is a 6 to 10 pound test on that. I prefer the 8 to 12 as my number one go-to is 8 to 12. So if you can only buy one rod, buy the 8 to 12 pound test for steelhead. This is a lot of fun. It's a kick in the pants to try to land a fish on a lighter rod like this. But that's why I take the Chris Loomis with me. And it is deadly. It's caught a lot of fish. So thank you, Chris, for giving me the free fishing rod. I've enjoyed it so far. Hopefully it'll have many more years to go. Next rod. Okay, so here's the next one. Let's start at the butt end of this rod. So this is a Stryker rod. This one is a 9 foot 9 inches. It's a medium, and it's a medium action rod. It's rated from 8 to 14 pound test on here. I have noticed fishing it that it's stronger than my other two rods that I fish. It's a little bit, it can handle a bigger fish a little easier. This particular one is, they have casting rods versus spinning rods. Another word for casting rod would be like a level wind type of a reel, or a casting reel, or a bait caster. So this is a casting, oh my gosh, so that's a whole nother video of why I prefer casting over spinning rods, but that's what this is. When Stryker got me in with them, they actually made this rod for me particularly. Can you see that? It's got my name on it, AUTOMAGIC. I really love the rod. It's done really well for me so far. Caught a lot of fish on it. When I got this rod, I actually got the a brand new reel for it. This is a Shimano reel made, it's a Corrado. And if you flip it over, I'm going to show you the other side of it. Can you follow that? So Shimano Corrado, this is a 201 HG. So a 200 or a 201, the 201 just means that you're reeling it with your left hand. And a 200, the same winder would be on the right side. So that's what that is. And again, I've got that same line. It's Pro, I can't even think of the name of it, but it's the Max Quattro line with the 40-pound test. You can see you want, oh, the other thing I really like about this is when I'm fishing it, I can release the bail right here with my thumb, and then it just pays out really fast and easy. And what I'll do is I'll cast the rod, or cast the line out, and once that bobber or all the stuff I'm presenting to the fish, once it gets past, like straight across the river from me, I pull down on that trigger and it releases that so that it allows that line to pay out. And I'll let it run without even having the bail set until I see a bite or until I'm ready to bring it back in. When I'm fishing and I get a bite, I don't even take time to reel. I just grab that thing right there with my thumb and I lift up real hard and set the hook. And then after I set the hook and I feel that fish pulling on the rod, that's when I start cranking on the winder. Because I don't need to crank on the winder until I know I got that fish on. I can run it down as long as I want. Like, I've got a couple hundred, maybe 150 yards worth of line on here. So I could run it, you know, 2 or 3, you know, if we're talking neighborhoods, 3 or 4 driveways down the river, probably, you know, 50 yards or so. I have noticed that if I run it too far down river, that the hookup ratio doesn't work as well, because then I'm pulling straight upstream from that fish, and if a fish is pointing upstream and he's got his mouth open and he's biting on that thing, and I pull it that way, the chances are that hook hasn't had much of a chance to get into the side of its mouth, right? Because I'm pulling it straight out of its mouth that way. Now if I'm pulling straight that way and he's still pointing this way, then all of a sudden he's going to get hooked in the side of the mouth, maybe a higher chance of that. So the further you let that go downstream, the better your chances of not hooking them. But don't let that stop you, because I think when you're allowed to let that run down river, don't let that stop you, the low hookup ratio for like running it and thumbing it down river, because the longer you let that drift, the better. Like, you might have a fish and you're like fishing right in front of you, and then all of a sudden there's a fish like another 10 feet down the river waiting to come bite your stuff. But if you stop it and you reel it in when you don't need to, it's better to just let that stuff keep on drifting down river. Let it go down all the way until it starts like catching on the bottom if you have to. Just allow it to have the long as you can on that run. And you might not hook it, but at least you get a bite that way. Maybe you don't have a fish sitting right in front of you, but those fish are downstream a little ways. So that's important. So this particular rod, of the 2 rods I have 2 of these conventional rods, or bait casters. The longer one is the 9.9 versus the 9 foot. I like to use the 9.9. I prefer it for doing float fishing because it gives me an extra 9 inches that I can use to like control the belly of my line in the water. Oh, the other thing I want to show you, I'm gonna pull down on my release here. If I let go of that with my thumb, look what happens to my bobber. It wants to go down because it's tuned to allow that bobber to go out. Now this knob right here that I'm pointing at, that controls how much that allows it out. So if I tighten it up a couple turns and then I let go, the bobber doesn't want to go down. It will still, but it's not tuned right if it's not coming out. You want that bobber to come, you want the line to come out of that reel very on its own. So I'll let it go, I'll turn it, see how it's starting to come down a little bit. Can you zoom in on that? See how it's letting line out? That's still too slow. I want it to come out faster. Now that also is a nice way of tuning this reel so that when you're casting it out there, you have a little bit of tension on this so that it doesn't want to like spin too fast. Because when this spins too fast, you get a big mess of line all over your reel, and then it takes you 45 minutes to straighten it out or unwind it or wind it. It's not good. You'll never want to have one of these fishing rods again. You'll be mad that you bought one. But that's how you tune that, so for casting and for letting it out when you want to let it downstream. But this rod normally I have it set up with beads. And I have the other one set to where I run eggs. But this is my bead rod. And I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to tie one up for you. You can pre-tie these or you can tie them at the river. It takes a long time to get all these tied up. Like it literally probably take about an hour or more just to tie these things up to get them ready for the river. But it reduces the amount of time that you spend while you're out standing on the bank and everybody's looking at you like, why aren't you fishing? All you're doing there is standing there tying your lines. So I've got some tied up here. So I'm going to tie one of these on here and show you how this works. So on the back of this leader board, I've got my hook in here. And just unhook the hook out of it. And then it's got little notches cut out of the leaderboard that you can put your line in. So here's what I've got. And this is a soft bead. You can do soft or hard beads. This particular one is a soft bead, and it just slides up and down on the line. Because it slides up and down on the line, you have to tie in something to stop that from going all the way to the hook. It took me forever this year. I kept getting bites and I wouldn't hook them because I didn't know how important that was to keep that from going all the way to the hook. What happens if it does go all the way to the hook, it basically plugs that gap on the hook like that, and then when it does hit that fish's mouth, those fish's lips go right over the top of that hook and it doesn't end up hooking them. So because of that, this is very critical to keep this from going down to the hook. And then I've got this. What I'll do is I'll tie this right here to that bottom of that swivel. I won't tie it to the snap part that goes to the weights. I just tie it right to the swivel part right there. I get it in there about like that, and then I'll just sit here and I'll use my fingertips on one hand and I'll just roll it back and forth. And you go 7 times. When you get all the way down to 7, there's the fisherman's knot or the clinch knot for you. You just put it through that little loop like that, and I've got the tag in and my fingers there, and I pull that tight, and then you take it up and you give it a little bit of a spit, a little spit on there just to make sure that that's nice and lubricated, and then pull it tight.
What happens if you don't spit on it?
It could burn the line. It stresses the line a little bit and makes it less strength. Oh yeah.
Now you're just biting the end of it?
I was just bite it off, but you're supposed to nip it off with some nippers so you're not hurting your teeth. So that's in a nutshell how you tie that on. And then this is, basically it's just running down river. You can set this top bobber stop here for how long you want that bobber. So when you drop it in the water, maybe you're fishing a spot that is like super shallow, right? So the fish aren't very tall. They're only maybe 6 to 10 inches tall, depending on how big they are. So you could run it this shallow, bottom of your weight, top of the bobber, and it could be going through like a foot of water. And this is just kind of dragging along down the river right next to it. And if a fish sees that, he's going to grab it and bite it. And they grab it like that, and then they stop it, and all of a sudden, what happens to the bobber? The bobber like dives underwater, and it doesn't keep going down river. Because it's doing that, that's why you set the hook really hard. And when you do that, that hook will stick right into their mouth somewhere. It's like it's sticking into my fingertip right there. Okay, so that's how that works. About 9.99% of the time I'll run a double bead setup because I want twice as many offerings as I can get. If it was easy to fish 3 beads, I would do 3.
What do you mean by a double bead setup? Are you talking about 2 lines?
I'll do another one, yeah. So maybe I'll take another bead. I'll do this one just to show you. So some people do like a pre-tie knot. So all it is just a cinch knot on the end of the line here. But what I do is I'll just, right on the belly of this hook here, I take my next line that's a pre-tied leader, again, like you've seen. And I'll do the same knot, another fisherman's knot right here. 7 or 8 spins. Put it through there, spit on it. And then pull it tight. Something I thought about the other day when I was tying leaders, because every one of these leaders is tied, it's got my spit all over them. I don't know if any of you guys out there know this, let me know, but I happened to be chewing on some, I think some smoked salmon or something that day. So I had like, I had the taste of some smoked fish, or I don't know, maybe it was like beef jerky or something like that. And I just thought to myself, like, if I was coming up thinking about biting this and I smelled some beef jerky, would I really want to bite it? So there might be something to that if you guys want to brush your teeth or not have like stinky breath when you're spitting on this stuff, because see all that line on there on that bait loop on that knot? That's got probably some leftover scent from whatever was in my mouth. So something to keep in mind. I don't know if it really matters. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. So there you have it. I've got my double bead set up. This is just designed to follow downstream. My bobber is bobbing along down the river, and it's just kind of stretched out along the river, going like this, bouncing around in the bottom of the river. One of these beads will get bit. So that's how the bead system works. The last little piece of this is I'm going to show you what's in my bag. Okay, so got it all unzipped. Got some scissors here. These are stainless steel scissors for cutting gills if I want to cut gills. I have this. These are actually really handy to have for cutting line and different stuff like that. So I got that in the top. The top of this, I've got all my extra bobbers. Not going to take them all out, but I got a ton of stuff in there, bobbers and whatnot. I'm going to lay all this out so you can see what I have. Got my pre-tied leaders. Here we've got kind of a tackle bag here. I've got all my split shots. These are the larger ones. I use the big ones when I'm just fishing eggs. Got little guys right here that I use when I'm doing my bead fishing. I don't want it to be quite so heavy. And then I got a couple sizes in between.
So what do you do with a split shot?
So the split shot is basically about halfway between the main weight and the hook. So you got to have at least 18 inches from the hook where you can put another weight. And all that split shot does is help get the all that stuff weighted down to the bottom of the river for you.
And why has it got the crack in it?
Which crack?
It's like got a split in it. Is that why it's called a split shot?
Yep. So the old days, this was just a shot. They call them shot, and you have like lead shot. And then they cut a little cut through it. So I use my teeth on the ears side, and that opens it really wide. And then you put your line through it, and then you bite down on it to where it like closes that, like a little Pac-Man.
It holds it where you want it on the line?
Yep, and then the line's inside that spot right there. And
cool.
Then you can kind of, but I use it so when I'm fishing and it's running down the river, if I start to see like little, it seems like it's tapping something, that's usually this weight hitting the bottom, and then that lets me know I'm down where I need to be. But if I have the big heavier weight down there hitting the bottom really hard, a lot of times that's what catches and that's not good. So
catches, what do you mean catches?
It hooks up into the rocks and
rock.
gets snagged up.
Okay.
So I got some extra hooks in case I run out. I like these things. These are the bright stuff that goes on top of my bobbers. There's an old weight system here, one of the main weights. I also have these inline weights that I used to use. More inline weights I don't use anymore. I've got little beads that I use as part of my bobber setup. Got slinky weights here, all kinds of those. Lots of different snap swivels in there. I've got some beads. These are God sent stinger beads. They're squishy, soft beads.
You say God sent? Is that a brand, or are you just calling them? Oh,
it's a brand. I know, it's like a good play on words. They did good by branding it that, but these are beads. You break them off individually and then you fish them. They come in little strips of them. And then somebody gave me some jigs. So I got a couple jigs in here that I can fish.
Is that just like a hook and a fly or something?
Yep, this is the jig without all the flashy stuff on it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tie up all these stuff, like make it look like a fly, or you're using the fly vise and you're tying it onto this shank. So that's that. I do have another thing full of hard beads. Some of this is kind of a catch-all. I don't know why I've got my spinners in here, but I have a spinner in that one. I got that. Got rubber worms in case I want to try fishing those.
Do those work?
Yeah, you catch steelhead with those. I got some more God sent fishing stuff, and then bait, scent. You can actually take this out. If you want to add some scent to something, this is like a sand shrimp scent that God sent makes. You got that. Got some old jigs that I had from way back when I was living in the Grand. So you can fish these for steelhead as well. A couple things like that. Same kind of deal. More jigs. These are little single eggs. They're little rubber eggs that have scent on them. So those are kind of nice to use for fishing. I've got my spinners. This is my little homemade spinner pouch I made. And you open it up. It keeps all the spinners pretty organized in here. So it's easy to pull one out one at a time. Spinners and spoons. So if I wanted to, I can just put them all in there. Keep the blades inside there, and then the Velcro shuts it. Keeps them from flopping around, getting tangled. One of the hardest things I've found is untangling like 5 or 6 of these spinners that are all tangled up with each other. So there's that. Okay, so now we're on this pocket, my right side pocket. I've got pre-tied hooks and leaders. This is not with a little glass bead for bead fishing. This is only for fishing salmon eggs. So these are called pips boxes. It's just a leader box, so if I wanted to, I could take one out. I just grab one, pull it out of there, and then just pull it right out of that thing. So now I've got the pre-tied leader, and I tie that right to my my main line. Next thing I got in here, I keep this just if I want to have some extra little glow bugs. These are just yarnies that are tied onto a hook. These are very effective for catching steelhead. So I got a little, just some extras, some reserves if I run out of stuff. Now this is all that's left in there. I've got some more split rings, some more swivels, some size 1 hooks because I use size 1 for my bobber and eggs. I've got some 1/0. Got some different hooks. So a lot of that is just hooks in there. Because all I really do is keep my eggs, everything I use for fishing eggs in that pocket. The other pocket, I got 12-pound test. I prefer, out of all the leaders, I like Maxima Ultra Green. I don't really like the fluorocarbon that a lot of people use, but I use that. I got some extra spinners in this pouch. And then I also have the size 2 hook. The size 2 hook is what I use for underneath a bead. So I like owner hooks, those work pretty well for me so far this year. And then I have, these are the little glass beads that I use. And I tie those things on to the leader about 2 to 3 inches above the hook. And that's what holds that bead from sliding down all the way to the hook. So I have those.
How do you tie them on?
Oh, that's a good question. I can show you actually. You want me to show you real quick? And then last thing in that, I'll show you here in a minute. I'm going to finish showing what's in this thing. So I have some rubber gloves in case I want them. So that's what goes in that that side. Kind of my bead side versus my bobber and egg side. And then I use it as extra storage as well. This thing's cool. Let's show you this real quick. So it's a nice thing to have some order. This I made them before for myself, but Addicted makes these, so I just use this one. But this, all I have to do is pull on it, and I can pull out a length of leader right here, and then I can cut it, and then it keeps it nice and tidy so it's not a big uncoiled mess. If I ever want to like run it back, I just pull it like this, and it winds it back on the line for me, or back on the spool. Okay, last but not least, we got soft beads galore. Got a bunch of beads in here. Got some by B&R. These are my style Bates beads. Got some bobber stops. I've got Godsend beads. Got some, don't know what they are. Some more B&R beads. Some more B&R. Lots of B&R beads. And I got extra stuff like more weights and slinkies. These are some more of these hooks that go on spinners. Some more, just a lot of extra stuff. Nice to have a tape measure on those days where you catch a wild fish, but you kind of want to be able to measure it. So it's a nice little soft measuring device. And then here on the very front pocket, I got 3 things. I always like to use scissors. I bought some pretty pink sparkly scissors, that way nobody steals my scissors from me. I use that to I use that to cut up my salmon eggs so that they're precise and the right size. And I'll pre-cut them so that I'm not sitting there each time I bait the hook. I don't cut more off. I cut them all and I put them in a container.
Are you talking about real salmon eggs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I cure the salmon eggs and then I cut them up into bait-sized pieces with this. This is just another nipper. The number one reason I have these in here, I don't typically use them for anything on the bank, but I keep them in there because lo and behold, that one time I end up getting a hook stuck in my hand. I want to be able to have something that can cut through a hook and pop it if I need it to.
So those are little wire cutters?
Yep, just little wire cutters.
Mm-hmm.
And then last but not least, you want to have a hook sharpener. So once in a while you run your hook too deep and it gets hooked onto maybe a rock on the bottom of the river. And you know it's been hooked on there, you pull it out and you check it and it kind of has a deformity in the tip of the hook. So you could grab that hook and just, I'll show you. I'll take one of these hooks right here. And you just hold that hook and you can sit there with the file and like kind of file it, just keep the same angle on it. 3 or 4 on each side. Maybe one right on the top of it.
Cool.
And then when you feel it, oh man, that is sharp. You want to make sure that you have a good chance of having this go into the fish's jaw. If it's dull, then it's like cutting steak with a butter knife. It doesn't work very well. You can still do it if you're determined enough, but by the time you get this to go into a fish's mouth when it's dull and you're pulling hard on it, you want it to at least do its job. So make sure you have sharp hooks. I think, okay, on the back, here's something I have in the back. Nice bonker. I know this floats because I've actually been bonking a fish, and when I went back in my backswing, it like slipped out of my hands and over my shoulder and blooped right into the water. And then it was just bobbing along the river, but that much sticking out of it, so I was able to go and grab it. But it's got a little lead weight on one side, so when you smack it, it smacks pretty good. It makes a good hard thump, and that it either knocks and kills the fish, knocks it out, makes it dizzy, so that it's not feeling a bunch of stuff if you're cutting its gills or you're dispatching it, so to speak. So I have that with my tackle bag, and I always keep a couple Ziploc bags with me as well. Whether I want to, maybe I want to clean a fish, maybe I need some kind of a bag to put some eggs in, like a fish has some eggs, I want to put them in there. I could do that as well. So that's it, you guys. Tell me what you think. Hopefully that's a good, more of an in-depth explanation of what I do, how I fish, what I take with me to the river. All that goes with me when I go down to the bank, wherever I'm fishing. I'm going to start with the 12-pound test, right? So first thing I'm going to do, I need at least that much length for a leader length. I usually just bite it off. Next thing I need is a hook. So I'll take a size 2 hook. Okay, so I got my hook and I've got my line. Now here's something I used to do different. What I used to do is I used to have the tip of the hook pointed down, and I'd go in like this, and I'd keep the tip of the hook down while I did all my wrapping. I can't really explain why, but it ties better with the hook up. So I don't know if you guys are a hook up type of people or a hook down type of people. I've converted to be a hook up guy. You're holding the shank of the hook and the line with one hand. With my right hand, I start wrapping it towards my fingertips of my left hand. And each wrap gets closer and closer to that side. And I do about 6 to 10 wraps. And then I grab this with my middle finger, pinch it onto my thumb, like that. And then I go all the way to the end where I can find the very end of that line with the other fingers. I find it, and now I go through that eye, but I don't go the same way through. I go out that way. Right there. Like that. And I'm going to pull it so that it's going this way the best I can. So, same line. You can kind of see I'm like repositioning it a little bit. So, this is the line I just stuck through there, and now I've got that same line that I just pointed at is right here as well. So I hold all that in one spot over there, and I'm going to do 4 to 6 more wraps. Keep heading towards those fingertips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I stop on the down side. Now I've got both my lines down here. I'm going to pinch both of them right here. And I'm going to switch hands, so I'm still pinching it, but now I've got it in my right hand. Now here's a big belly of line here, and all this line needs to come up through this spot through my fingertips. So hashtag spit on it. You lubricate it so that it'll slide through there nice and easy. I usually just grab this with my tip of my teeth, and you just pull on it, and you're just letting that whole line. It's okay if it gets a little kinky, a little kinked up, but you pull it all the way until there's no more line left on this side. You pull it tight there, and then you take your teeth, and you pull it tight there. So that's how you tie the bait loop. So what you've done is you've created a loop potential there, and this is what I would normally fish eggs with, right? So you put your egg in there and then tighten it up, and that's how it fishes. I don't with the bead, but so now I'm going to show you how to tie that bead on. So I got a little bead here. It's not very big. You start by threading that bead, just like you're making a necklace. Dropped it. I didn't want that bead anyway. It was kind of discolored. Like, now I got it hooked up in my foot.
Oh dear.
I'm stuck.
Now what are you gonna do?
I don't know. It's barbed, so it won't come out.
Well, this is a good way to show people what to do if it gets stuck in your finger.
Yeah, so if it's all the way through your finger, you just grab that like that and it comes out. So now we take this little red bead and we thread it onto the line like that. And then I'm going to let that go all the way down to the hook. So now it's on the hook. And then what you do is you take it and you run through that bead one more time with the same line, same tip. Right here. Go one more time through there. Just like so. So now you've got your line with a little bit of a loop. Can you see that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So then what I do is I'll hold the bead at the top and I do this 7 times. I go through that loop. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. I've seen people do it 2 or 3 times and call it good. I like to do it 7 times exactly because it makes a difference on how that bead gets fixed in there. So now I've got the double thing, so it's run through 2 lines, it's all coiled up, and then I'll hold this side and I'll pull on this side right here until it gets about 1 inch, like that. So now I've got right there in the middle, and I lubricate it, put some spit on it, and I'm going to pull on it on each side. And you want that bead to be right in the middle of this big knot I've made, like that.
Cool.
So now that is fixed in position. I've got a little bit of knot on the top and a little bit of knot on the bottom. That's why you have to do it 7 times, so that you have a little bit of knot on both sides. You want it to be a knotty bead. and then you have a hook. I guarantee you this will not hook a fish. 100%. Anyway, that's how you tie that on, and then okay, so hopefully you guys learned a few things. Hopefully you're able to, probably went and made a sandwich. I would imagine that's what I say to do if you ever get bored watching my videos. Just leave it running, go make a sandwich and come back, pop some popcorn if you have to. But thanks for watching it anyways. Maybe you learned something. If you did, leave a comment. Tell me in the comments what you guys learned, if you were able to take anything away from this. I have caught a lot of fish this year. I think I probably caught 6 to 10 fish, I would guess, in December. And I just kept fishing January, February. I kind of stopped going out. This is March. I think we're on the 7th of March now. I could go out and catch fish right now. I'm trying to shift gears and do some other stuff. So again, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe and the like and the share, and if you could, all the people that don't know how to fish, this is a good one to send to people. If you want to share it to all your people that don't know what they're doing. They might learn something from it. Maybe we'll see them out on the water fishing with you or something like that. So appreciate it. Have a good one.